Check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go!
So do we go by Howie or Howard?
Well, I prefer Howie, please.
Okay, Howie then. How you doing, Howie?
I'm great. How are you, Michael?
Good. Before we talk about your book, give my viewers, listeners, a bit of a background on who you are, and you're an indie author, but just talk about everything.
Well, I started out in television in the '90s. I started out as a sports trivia show host, and then worked on the Rough Riders for a couple of years. Moved on to do color commentary for the AAA baseball Ottawa Lynx. They were the affiliate for the Expos at the time. They won the championship in '95, and that was a thrill for everybody. I also covered the Senators for a bunch of years and hosted 67's games on Rogers as well.
So you're a big Ottawa sports guy. So that's good. That's excellent. And you're part of a podcast too now, right? Am I correct with that?
Yeah, I'm the co-host of the Sports Lunatics show. I do it with my buddy Sean Levine, who used to be a producer at TSN 1050 and at Sirius XM, and he's out in Halifax now. And I'm here in Ottawa, and we do the show remotely, just as you and I are doing this right now.
Yeah, what's the show about?
It's the Sports Lunatics show. It's a sports history podcast. We cover a lot of things. We just recorded another show today on our top 10 Blue Jays playoff moments, in their history. And so it's a fun show to do. We usually mix in a bunch of jibes at each other sometimes, but it's all about sports history, and it's all about fun.
Well, we're talking, Blue Jays are top of mind right now. What do you think? I think they'll dust the Yankees off. And then after that, who knows? I actually do think it'll be the Jays and the Brewers in the World Series.
I'd be afraid of the Brewers. The Brewers have an excellent team, and they seem to be able to do everything. But right now, the way that the Blue Jays are playing, they're able to do everything right now too. So it'll be interesting. And the funny thing is, I was thinking about it today, and I've been to a lot of the stadiums that the playoff games are being played in right now. I haven't been to Philadelphia, and I haven't been to Yankee Stadium, but I've been to the rest.
Oh, wow. Cool. Which do you like? Rank the ones that you've been to that are left in the playoffs.
When I was at Safeco, when it was Safeco, now it's T-Mobile.
Yeah.
But that was back when we lived in Seattle in 2001, and that was it was beautiful. I was at the first game after 9/11 in 2001.
Oh, wow.
And that was pretty wild. I was at the last game of that season when they tied the American League record for wins, and that was something too because they were playing Texas. The last out of that game was Alex Rodriguez on a strikeout, and I don't know if it was orchestrated or what, but it's like from the upper deck, everybody started throwing Monopoly money down in the field at the last pitch at Alex Rodriguez because, of course, he left Seattle to go to Texas for that big contract. Seattle, it's a beautiful stadium. Wrigley is beautiful as well. There's so many that.
You like Milwaukee's?
Milwaukee is spectacular. It's architecturally just an amazing field, especially once you get inside and it's all glass and the roof is retractable. I found that to be spectacular.
I've never been to Skydome / Rogers Center. We didn't when I did the Rider games. We didn't go to Toronto. We went to Halifax twice, so I never went to BMO Field. So I never toured around. I haven't been to a Jays game. How does the new Rogers Center look in person? Looks good on TV.
They did a really good job in kind of renovating that place and making it friendly, especially for the younger demographics. I go to baseball games to watch baseball games. I don't mind having a beer, but they've made those areas down in the right field area. They've made them very, very hospitable for fans to stand around and talk and watch the games as well.
So you're a big CFL guy, obviously. You got a book coming out here that we're going to talk about. But does the CFL need Toronto? Because it feels like MLSE doesn't care about the Argos. Do we really need Toronto?
I believe they do. I believe the CFL does need Toronto. I wish I go back to 1971 when the Argos had Leo Cahill as their coach, and they had a good team, and he was full of bluster and full of everything in vinegar, and he molded that team in his own image. They were a good team, and they played with swagger. They'd come into your town, they'd beat you, and they'd steal your girlfriend and ride off on their Harleys. You know, and I think that the league needs a team like that in Toronto again. Not that I'm not a Toronto fan, but I think that Toronto, having a strong team in Toronto, a team that would push everybody around, I think it would be like the Yankees in baseball. Everybody would hate them, and they'd go to the field and go to the stadiums and hate watch the Argos if they had that team like that.
Yeah, so like that's why I kind of like Chad Kelly. Now, I don't agree with what he did off the field with the female employee and all that stuff. I'm not saying that. But prior to that, he had that cocky swagger about him. He said he's one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the world. And, you know, he says a lot of wacky things. He knows he's going to get stuff back. So he's kind of got that edge now, whether, you know, everything that happened off the field, once again, not condoning it. I'm just saying he's kind of got that brashness about him. I will say this. Now, you got this book coming out.
Yes.
The title of the book, Howie, is?
An Unlikely Story, How the 1981 Ottawa Rough Riders Just Missed a Miracle.
Okay, so I've been a CFL fan my whole life. And generally they say, what you like between the ages of 9 and 11, music, pop culture, you know, what your parents taught you, and sports, your sports heroes, your sports teams. That's kind of where it starts, the love of things between 9 and 11. And I agree with that, because if I look back in my life, I'm like, okay, I like the Edmonton Oilers in 1981. That's when they kicked the Canadians' ass. When they used to go 1-16, 2-15, 3-14 in the playoffs, and the Oilers swept the best of 5. I became a San Diego Chargers fan because we only got one game a week on TV, and very first game I tuned into was the Chargers-Dolphins epic game in Miami with Kellen Winslow and everything, and I thought, I like the Chargers. They got nice unis, and they throw the football around like a CFL team, so I'm going to go with the Chargers, and they've been breaking my heart ever since. So that's the team I like. And the first Grey Cup I remember vividly was the 1981 Grey Cup, because the Eskimos, and they'll always be the Eskimos to me, and I think they should go back to being the Eskimos. I mean, I'm saying that as a 53-year-old white man, but I just honestly, they were the evil empire. You hated them. They beat up on everybody, and I was cheering for J.C. Watts and the Ottawa Rough Riders to win because they were they had no business being there. Let's be honest, Howie.
No, you're right, and it's the funny thing is, or it's not funny, but I mean, even going into the East semifinal against Montreal, Montreal had beaten Ottawa in the last regular season game in Montreal, and they beat them bad. Mm-hmm. They went back to Ottawa to play the East semifinal because Ottawa finished second with a 5-11 record, something that would never happen today. But Ottawa was a 3-point underdog against Montreal, and Ottawa, their defense was stout. J.C. Watts had played his way kind of into the Canadian game. He had to learn it from scratch. He walked away from training camp on the first day of training camp back at the end of May, and then came back about 4 games into the regular season when he saw a game between Ottawa and Montreal, and his old teammates Keith Gary and David Overstreet were all having fun for Montreal, and you know, it was an exciting game, and he thought, I'd like to get back into this. He was overweight, not in shape to play football. He had to work his way back into shape. He had to work his way to learn the Canadian game. He had always had the run option play in Oklahoma, and he never really learned how to pass and learn to throw from the pocket. And he had to learn all of that on the fly. And it took a while for him to be able to be even a second-string quarterback with the Rough Riders. But once he did, he and Kevin Starkey that year kind of worked their way. And I remember Frank Cush, who came up to Coach Hamilton that year, said the best thing about J.C. Watts is his unpredictability. The fact that he's durable as well. He can take a hit and get up. And you never knew if he was going to roll out and run, if he was going to roll out and pass. And so you could never commit one way or the other to a pass or a run play. And that inability to be able to figure him out was Ottawa's biggest weapon as they moved down to the end of the season. Shoring up their defensive secondary, getting J.C. Watts' kind of Canadian game ready, and it all worked out. Against Montreal in that first playoff game, they went into Hamilton. They were 13-point underdogs to Hamilton. Hamilton 11-5, I think they were, or 12-4, something like that. I have to go back. With my memory is not a reliable chronicle anymore, but they surprised the Hamilton Tiger Cats at Ivor Wynne. Pat Stokewell was on our show in 2022, and the interview that I did with him was over an hour long, and that formed the skeleton for the book, basically. And he was hilarious because he was never the fleetest of foot,
right?
And he caught a ball late in the fourth quarter. Ottawa was stuck on their own 8-yard line, and he caught a pass. Kelvin Kirk cleared out the area. He said he did about an 18-yard curl. J.C. Watts got the ball to him. Two Hamilton defenders collided with each other, and gave him about a 10-yard, 15-yard head start. So he's running downfield, and he says, Howie, they marked me down as a 4.7 40, but I was more like a 4.9 or 5.0. Yeah. And he's running past his own bench, and the Ottawa guys are yelling, if you don't get to the end zone, don't come back to this bench. And he made it to the end zone. He says just barely, but I mean, he's a modest guy. He scored the touchdown. Ottawa won that game 14-10. He was chosen as the MVP because he got both touchdowns for Ottawa in that game. And when they gave him, I think it was framed 5 $100 bills in Hamilton colors. And so I guess they figured that a Hamilton Tiger Cat was going to win the MVP in that game. But
wow.
So then they get to Edmonton, or they get to Montreal, to play Edmonton in the Grey Cup game. And
let me stop you, Howie, because what else was interesting about this, and it's funny how times don't really change that much in terms of, like, Alberta's fighting with Ottawa about oil and energy and everything. And here we had Peter Lougheed, I believe he was the premier of Alberta, and he was fighting with Justin's dad, Pierre Trudeau, over oil independence, and there was a big fight over that. And so I'm only 9. I'm not big into politics now, but I do remember that. So Ottawa and Edmonton, that was a big on the field and off the field, Alberta and Ottawa.
That formed the backdrop, basically, for that Grey Cup game. And I discussed that in the chapter about Grey Cup week and the game itself. And I have a couple of pages in the book about that, because in 1980, I was 20 years old. Mm-hmm. And some friends of mine and I, we went up to Swan Hills, Alberta, and we worked as laborers on a water pipeline for the town of Swan Hills. And we worked every day it didn't rain, because the welders couldn't work in the rain.
Right.
So we would work, 15, 16 days straight, and then we'd have rain, and we'd go to the Swan Hills Hotel and drink beer and go to Bako Pizza and watch movies or something. And I remember that back then, if you were from Ontario and you were in Alberta, you were kind of a persona non grata. And I remember my buddy and I were sitting at a table in the Swan Hills Hotel, and a guy came up to us, and he says, "Where are you guys from?" And I didn't want to say Ottawa, so I said Ontario. And he says, "How's it feel coming here and raping our economy?" And I said, "I just want to work. I'm just here to work. That's all I want to do." And so, we worked our butts off, came home, and we were like, as hard as this table.
Yeah.
But that was the atmosphere at the time. And it was kind of the beginning of, I think, the Wexit movement was starting at that time. When you remember the bumper stickers that said, let those Eastern bastards freeze in the dark and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That was all prevalent at that time as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. So we get to the game, and it's like everybody has what does Mike Tyson say? Everybody has a plan till they get punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
And Edmonton got punched in the mouth. I remember I'm sitting in my grandma's living room in Indian Head, Saskatchewan, watching this game, and I couldn't believe I could. I'm the only, my parents weren't sports nuts, so I don't know how I became a sports nut, but I was the only guy sitting there really paying attention to this thing as a 9-year-old, and I couldn't. Dad, can you believe this? He didn't really care. I'm like, I can't believe this. Ottawa's going to win the Grey. They only won 5 games, Dad, all year. This is crazy.
It's incredible. It was incredible. It was a real roller coaster, and I was today. I went for lunch with a group of CFL alumni from Ottawa. Yeah. And they asked me to talk about the book there. And I said, it's kind of like a Russian novel in that there's a lot of downs, and then there's some ups, and then there's more downs, and then they get up, and they get up, and they get up. And just at the end, when you think that they're going to be champions, it goes down the drain again. It's like I said to my son, it's like Dr. Zhivago. My son is in cinematography in college right now. I said, it's like Dr. Zhivago, the end of Dr. Zhivago, when Yuri sees the woman that he used to love, years ago, and she's on a bus in Moscow or whatever, and he runs for the bus. But he's old now, and he has a heart attack and dies, and that's the end of the movie. And that's kind of like how it was for the Ottawa Rough Riders on that day. I remember asking Pat Stokwa, what was the dressing room like? What was the locker room like at halftime? And he says, "Oh, we were. It was crazy. We were in uncharted waters." He says we didn't know because we'd never been in this position before. The first game of the year, they played Edmonton in the regular season, and Edmonton beat them 47-10, I think. And the second time on Thanksgiving weekend, Ottawa played better, but Ottawa still lost 24-6. Edmonton had 2 defensive touchdowns in that game, and so the focus for Ottawa and their defensive secondary was to not allow Warren Moon to get anything deep. And they were successful in doing that. And in doing that, he was frustrated because he didn't think of going short, and having guys go short and then let them run.
Yeah.
And they took him out, as you remember, and Tom Wilkinson went in, and he went dump, short pass, and he moved the ball. And finally, they got a field goal attempt near the end of the first half, and they got a single out of it.
Yeah,
Ottawa led at the half 20-1, and I in the book I talked about this. I said Edmonton arrived in Montreal to a fanfare of media at the airport. Everybody's celebrating them. They're this 3-time Grey Cup champion at the time. Ottawa arrived in a bus at the bus station to a few people, and it reminded me of the old Bugs Bunny cartoon. I don't know if you've seen it, but do you remember the Crusher?
Yep.
And Ravishing Ronald gets carried in and sees the Crusher with all his muscles, and he runs away, leaving Bugs Bunny to fight the Crusher. The Ottawa Rough Riders were Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
And to have them be up 20-1 at halftime, it was just incredible. I remember Rick Sovieta was a linebacker on that Ottawa team, and he intercepted a pass from Warren Moon. Moon tried to drill it through, and he didn't see Sovieta kind of sneak into his passing lane. And I asked Rick about that years later. And Rick was so modest and everything, and so nice. And he says, "Howie, I got lucky." He says, "Moon threw it so hard that it stuck in my face mask, and I just grabbed it and held on." But of course, you watch the game, and he didn't just do that. He knocked it down with his taped hands, and the ball hung in the air for a second. He caught it and went down because he didn't want to lose it. But everything went right for Ottawa in that first half, and everything went wrong for Edmonton. And at halftime, Wilkinson and Hugh Campbell and Warren Moon stood together, the group of them, and said, "This is what we have to do, Warren. You're going back in, but this is what we have to do. We have to work short passes, and we have to kind of dissect them that way." And that's what they did, and it worked.
For sure. And they ended up winning the game 26-23. So everything went right in the first half for Ottawa, and nothing went really that right in the second half. I would say this. Listen. The beauty of the CFL and a 9-team league is you just got to get to the playoffs. You just have to get to the playoffs, and that's an example. Although I'm going to say for the credibility of the league, Howie, I'm kind of happy, even though I hated Edmonton, that they won, because I don't know how good it would have looked had a 5-win team won the Grey Cup. You know what I'm saying?
The week of the Grey Cup, the week before the Grey Cup, the league governors got together and said, "We can't have this." There was a fear that the game was going to be a national embarrassment. Norm Kimball, who was the GM of the Eskimos at the time, put forth a couple of different proposals. We didn't get the crossover until 1997, I believe.
Yeah.
But that 81 Ottawa team was the impetus for the whole discussion about crossover.
So let me ask, that's great. I don't want to give too much of the book away. You guys got to check this out. An unlikely story about the 1981 Ottawa Rough Riders. We'll tell them where to get it at the end of this.
Yep.
Is it important to stay with an East and a West?
I believe it is. I believe that that's one of the pillars that the league has been founded on since they got together in 1954. It's always been East and West, except '88 when it was Winnipeg and BC, and a couple of times when Winnipeg was in the Eastern Conference there. But I believe that I know it feels like the East has been bad for a long, long time, and it has been. but I believe that East versus West is always the way to go. I think it stokes a lot of things. There, first of all, I think it brings the country together. I mean, you've been to Grey Cups, so you understand that the feeling there when you talk to fans from other places, it's always the most wonderful thing. It's a feeling like we're all on the same island, and we have to stick together to keep this game and keep this league afloat. I mean, things happen in different cities. Time is cyclical. Everything's cyclical. Teams are successful. Teams are not successful. Then they're successful. Then they're not successful. But I believe that East versus West is the way to go. And I mean, I'm saying that as a guy from Ottawa, a place we can never have nice things when it comes to sports.
So let me ask you this though. Why do you'd be a great guy to ask? I've asked other people this, and one answer I got from some players is there's not as much pressure out East, I guess.
That was one of the things that Kimball brought up.
So this is my question. Why is the East, for lack of a better way of putting it, why is the East generally shitty? Like we have never had an Eastern crossover. We have a Western crossover.
All the time.
The Eastern teams aren't, we get one or two good teams, and the other two one might be mid, the other one's really shitty. And out West, we usually have 3-4 good teams. The fifth one might be crappy, but like all 5 teams are pretty relevant out here this year in terms of their record. Why? Because a lot of the players come from the Eastern United States. You'd think that would be the hotbed. That's where it would always be competitive. I don't know. I'm just saying that as a Western, because since I've been alive, the East has sucked.
It's a fair point. It's a fair point. I don't know exactly why. I think this year it's been really, really hard going to Red Blacks games because I have a package and I've been going to the games, and it feels really, really hard to watch when you know that they're going to be digging themselves a hole in the first quarter every game. I've been one of the people, and I hate advocating for somebody to lose their job, but I've been kind of saying they have to make a change at coach in Ottawa. I mean, Hamilton is usually good. Toronto has been, I mean, they've won the Grey Cup a number of times in the past 10 years. Winnipeg has been just amazing for a long time in the, and I know you hate to hear that in Saskatchewan, but they have been, and they've been really strong over the last decade. I don't know exactly why Eastern teams generally are not good. But I tell you, as a guy who grew up in the 60s when the Ottawa Rough Riders were like the gold standard almost, and they won 3 Grey Cups, got into 4. Hamilton was great in the 60s as well. I would, as I said before, when a team that had a coach like Leo Cahill, brash, cocky, throwing their weight around and talking trash all the time, I think that the East needs a team like that to make everybody hate them. And I'd love for that team to be in Toronto, just because I think the league needs Toronto to be healthy and to be a force in the CFL.
So Ottawa was great, before I was born, from about 1960 to 1976. Then they had that nice little story in 81.
Yes.
And then, the teams have folded twice. They had a nice Grey Cup victory in 2016. And then now they've fallen on hard times. Are you concerned about the health of the franchise in Ottawa going forward? I was just there. In past years, I would have just agreed with you, but my son's playing on the Blue Bombers. So I went to watch the Bombers Ottawa game in Ottawa. Great stadium, nice area. Love that bridge on the one side. It's my first time there. I'm a CFL historian, so I love sitting in that stadium thinking about Gabriel and Skip Walker and all the great guys, Jim Reed, all the guys that played there. So I really appreciated it there. But once again, beautiful afternoon, sunny. But the team. I love Bob Dice. I got friends on that team, but it's like the team is not very good, and you only get 20,000 fans when it should be sold out on a beautiful Saturday, late September afternoon. Do you feel like we're running into some really rough waters again in Ottawa?
I don't worry about the health of the city or of the team, the franchise, because that OSEG group, they have a ton of money, and I wanted Bob Dice to be successful. I thought bringing back Campbell was a great move, but it's funny because when Campbell was the head coach, Bob Dice was his special teams coach. Now Dice is the head coach and Campbell's the special teams coach. And so I think the logical move would be to move Campbell into the head coaching spot. I would hate like I say, I'd never advocate for somebody to lose their job.
Yeah.
But we know the coaching fraternity and the coaching position is a very volatile one, and guys are here and gone faster than you can say.
Yeah.
What time is it?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was down. I had somebody gifted me a ticket. I was in that low section on the north side at the field level for that game, and I saw Trey Vavel like from me to where you are right now on my screen. It was incredible.
So let me stop you there. That's the last thing I wanted to ask you about. Being a guy who wrote a traditional book here, 1981, followed this team through the ups and the downs. Ottawa guy, can't have nice things. How do you feel about what was announced 2 Mondays ago in this league? I know how I feel, but how do you feel about this? Because to me, you talked about Grey Cup protecting our league. I feel like we're giving away our league, and I think it's a big step towards giving more away of our league. I'm very protective of our league.
I have concerns. The first thing, okay, I can understand wanting to move the goalposts to a different spot because when I was a kid, I played football. I had a concussion from running into the goalposts on a post pattern, literally a post pattern. But I can also understand moving the goalpost to the back of the end zone. And if you do that, you got to move the end zones back, shorten the end zones 15 yards. I don't like the idea, but I will learn to live with that. I wonder how they're going to adjudicate the last 3 minutes of each half, the first and second halves. I'm curious about that. I really do not like getting rid of the 55-yard line. And as soon as Johnson said that, my first thought was they're changing the size of the field because when they expanded in the 90s, trying to get a 55-yard or 110-yard field into an American facility was a gong show. And that's my concern is are they gearing us up for American expansion again? I know that COVID almost killed the league. I know that one season off was a terrible, terrible thing for the league. That no money coming in, they were still paying money out to people who worked for the league. But I'm thinking, like, is the league in trouble that way that they have to get money from expansion teams in the U.S.? And if they do, what U.S. cities are they going to go to? And is anybody really going to care down there? Because they didn't care the last time, and it was just a money grab the last time. That my first thought when he said we're reducing the size of the field was that about U.S. expansion.
Yeah, listen, it's I think we do need more teams. I don't think there's an appetite for the for expansion in Canada. I just don't think we're wired that way. So I think I don't see it happening in Atlantic Canada. I don't see it out west in Victoria. They won't put a team in Saskatoon. Like you probably do need to go to the States eventually. So I'm not a fan of anything they've done, to be quite honest, but I get it if it means saving the league. But this is where I draw the line. Like, I don't want to see 4 downs. I don't want to see any more of the kicking game gone. I don't want to see Canadians reduced. Like, this is where we talk out of both sides of our mouth. Oh, the Canadians, this is the greatest era for Canadians. Look at all of them playing NCAA, which my kid did. Look at them playing NFL. There's so many a lot of our statistical leaders in the league, Howie, right now are Canadians, but there's an American coaching bias. So do we have great Canadians or don't we? Like, I don't want to see, they came after the ratio the last time. So that's a problem I have. Yeah. There's so many, and the problem I have, Howie, is there's so many unanswered questions. That was the worst press conference in the history of press conferences for Q&As. There's lots of they didn't even consult amateur football. Like, I'm sorry, I keep beating a dead horse here, but it's crazy. There's a lot of unanswered questions here, and I can only think that that's what they're doing. They're just going to try to get a quick fix and save whatever they can of the league. But if you're doing that, be honest with us. Tell us that's why you're doing it.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%. Moving the goalpost back too is going to take away one of the most exciting plays that we've seen a number of times this year, where a guy runs a missed field goal back for a touchdown.
Vavel, you just saw Vavel.
And Sluka did it to Ottawa too when Toronto was in town. You know, it's happened, and we've seen Pimpleton do it too before. For Ottawa, that's the one thing. And in Ottawa too, this past weekend, we had the Panda game between Ottawa U and Carleton. And it's one of the. I mean, they packed the place. They filled the entire stadium. It was 25,000 people, and I worry that if they change the field, that Panda game is going to have to take place on a different field, or college and university football is going to have to change their rules to match.
You just raised, yeah, exactly. Who's paying for all that? But just to conclude, I've always said this, it's not the game that's broken, it's everything around the game. And one of the key things is promotion. Look at that. That's a rivalry, historic, promoted game, and it's sold out. Why, instead of this is what I say. It's I'll use this analogy again. It's like the drunk that won't come home, and his wife is pissed off, and now they're at a critical crossroads. So instead of fixing the problem and stopping drinking and coming home, what you do is you remodel the house or go to a different neighborhood, but you're still drinking and not coming home. That's what the CFL's doing right now. Like, promote, get your streaming, build these athletes playing at Carleton and stuff like that. Ottawa, build the athletes, cover the combine, cover the draft. Let's just dig into Canadiana. Let's dig into the CFL. Let's promote. But I think there's a lot of lazy people out there, to be honest.
Last weekend in Toronto, they promoted the Argos' last home game, and they got their biggest crowd of the year. Same thing happened last year when I was living in the GTA at the time, and I went down to that game because they were playing Ottawa, and I was the red speck and the red and black speck in a deep blue sea. But everybody was nice, but of course, because the Argos were hammering Ottawa in the first half, and Ottawa had no hope of coming back. But it was a fun day, and I always love going to games, especially when I can go and sit with other CFL fans from other places.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we got the book. It's coming out, or it is out right now, An Unlikely Story about the '81 Ottawa Rough Riders. Where can they find the book?
The easiest place is to go on Amazon. Get the book. If you have Amazon Prime, it'll be there the next day or 2 days, whatever. But that's the best way to get it and the easiest way to get it. Just go on Amazon, look up An Unlikely Story, look up Howie Mooney, whatever. I've got other books as well that are on Amazon as well. And so that's the easiest way to get it.
Well, you're going to be a regular guest, man. I love talking to you, and I'm going to buy the book so I can put it on my shelf behind my body here so we can display it too. Thanks for your time, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Michael. I absolutely appreciate being on with you.